So what are you thinking?
Are you thinking about using an Indian motor?
Every time I come out here, Vinny's doing a job and you're holding his hand.
Me and him split everything. We started yesterday.
Get your hands dirty for a change. Do some welding and grinding instead of watching everybody else do.
For 6 unforgettable seasons, American Chopper brought the world inside the tumultuous world of Orange County choppers. But when the cameras stopped rolling, the real drama started. In the years since the show ended, the OCC crew has faced a series of heartbreaking personal and professional crises, leaving them to pick up the pieces of their once unstoppable empire. What really happened to the Orange County Choppers crew after the cameras stopped rolling? How did a hit TV show turn into years of personal struggles and a broken empire? Join us as we pull back the curtain on the shocking post-fame struggles of the American Chopper cast. Paul Tutul Sr. It's hard to think about American Chopper without imagining Paul Sr. walking through the shop at Orange County Choppers. He was known for his loud voice, tough attitude, and constant push for perfection. As the head of the Tutul family and the leader of OCC, he turned the business into a major success. His strict standards and fiery temper shaped the company's rise and made him one of the most memorable figures on the show. Behind Paul Sr.'s tough, no-nonsense image was a man fighting battles that few truly understood. His struggle with alcoholism was something many around him knew about, but it wasn't often spoken of openly. By 2018, those struggles came to a breaking point. He was involved in a serious car accident while driving under the influence, an incident that led to a DUI arrest and forced him to confront the reality of his situation. For Paul Sr., it was a wake-up call. Soon after, he decided to check himself into rehab, taking the first real steps toward facing his demons and trying to rebuild his life. Just when Paul Sr. was starting to get his life back on track, another painful setback came his way. In 2018, his wife, Beth Dillon, passed away after fighting cancer for many years. Losing her was a heavy blow, and it left him struggling with sadness and depression. The grief was so overwhelming that he slipped back into old habits, turning to alcohol again as a way to deal with the pain. For someone who had already faced so many ups and downs, this loss made things even harder and showed how deeply personal struggles can affect a person's life. People who knew Paul Sr. often said that losing Beth changed him in a way that never fully healed. He pulled back from others and became more distant, showing less of the strong presence he once had. His temper grew shorter, and sudden bursts of anger made the shop a tense place to work. Employees felt like they had to be extra careful around him, worried that even small mistakes could set him off. Over time, some began to share rumors that the powerful and unstoppable Paul Tutul no longer had the same fire that once defined him. As fans watched Sr.'s struggle play out in the tabloids, another member of the Tutul family was quietly fighting his own battle behind closed doors. Michael Tutul. Michael was the youngest of the Tutul brothers and was often called the gentle giant of the OCC crew. He had a quiet way of speaking and a presence that balanced out the tension in the shop. While his father and brothers argued and clashed in the front, Michael usually stayed in the back, focused on his work. He spent hours shaping and building the detailed metal parts that gave OCC bikes their unique look. His personality and craftsmanship made him an important part of the team, even if he wasn't always in the spotlight. Behind Michael's calm, easygoing personality lay a struggle that had haunted him for years. He was fighting some serious demons. In 2016, the Tutuls dropped a bombshell. Michael had been hooked on heroin for years. It was a total shock to fans who always saw him as the chill, reliable one. The whole time American Chopper was blowing up, Michael was in and out of rehab, trying his best to kick the habit. It just goes to show, people never know what someone's dealing with behind closed doors, even the people who seem to have it all together. Michael's struggle hit home for many people. It was a wake-up call that substance dependency can happen to anyone, no matter how kind or put together they might seem on the outside. His story was a reminder that everyone has their battles to fight, even if they're not ready to put them out there for the world to see. Michael never stopped trying to get clean, though. Every time he checked into rehab, he was dead set on beating this thing once and for all. Only a year after finally getting sober, tragedy struck again. Michael's life was cut short when he suffered a sudden heart attack at just 39 years old. For the Tutul family, it was a devastating blow. Michael had always been the youngest of the brothers, the one they looked after and tried to protect, even during his struggles. His tragedy left them reeling, not only because of the shock of losing him so young, but also because it came at a time when he seemed to be turning his life around. The loss carved a deep wound in the family, adding yet another painful chapter to their already complicated story. For fans of American Chopper, it was heartbreaking to see the Tutuls, who had once seemed larger than life, brought to their knees by grief. In the wake of Michael's passing, the family rallied around each other, vowing to stay strong in his memory. But privately, they wondered how many more blows they could take before everything they'd built came crashing down. Vincent Cody Connolly. Paul Jr. came up with the bold ideas for OCC's custom bikes, but Cody Connolly was the one who made those ideas real. As the shop's lead fabricator and Paul's trusted partner, Cody had an incredible skill for shaping metal and building parts that matched even the most ambitious designs. His talent enabled him to turn creative concepts into motorcycles that could actually hit the road. Cody's craftsmanship and steady work made him one of the key figures behind OCC's success, even if he wasn't always in front of the cameras. With his scruffy beard, relaxed attitude, and sharp sense of humor, Cody quickly became a fan favorite when he first appeared on American Chopper. His easygoing personality was the perfect balance to Paul Sr.'s fiery temper, and audiences loved watching the contrast between the two. Cody had a knack for delivering perfectly timed jokes and playful remarks, often easing the tension in the shop while still keeping things entertaining. His charm and wit made him stand out, turning him into one of the most memorable young faces of the series. When Paul Jr. left Orange County Choppers in 2009 to launch his own design company, Cody faced a tough decision. He had always been close to Paul Jr. and trusted his vision, so he chose to go with him. That move showed his loyalty to his friend, but it also meant cutting ties with Paul Sr., whose temper and unpredictable nature had already made the shop a difficult place to work. By joining Paul Jr.'s new venture, Cody stepped into a fresh chapter of his career while leaving behind the tension and conflict that had defined life at OCC. At the beginning, Cody was full of energy and excitement about starting a new company alongside Paul Jr. The idea of building a fresh brand felt promising, and the two poured themselves into the work. But as time went on, Paul Jr. designs struggled to stand out in a market already packed with custom builders. The challenges of running a business without OCC's backing began to show. Bills piled up, projects slowed down, and the pressure of keeping the company afloat weighed heavily on them. What had started as a dream soon became a daily struggle to survive in a tough industry. By 2014, Cody's life looked very different from the days when he was celebrated as one of American Chopper's rising stars. To pay his bills, he took a part-time job as a bartender, a far cry from the fame and recognition he once enjoyed as a designer. Though he still teamed up with Paul Jr. on occasional projects, the work was irregular and lacked the excitement of the show's peak years. For fans who remembered his talent and creativity, it was a striking reminder that the golden era of American Chopper had passed, leaving Cody to navigate a quieter, more uncertain path. As Cody fought to keep his head above water, another key member of the OCC crew was about to discover that life after reality TV fame is never quite as glamorous as it seems. Rick Petco. Rick Petco stood out at Orange County Choppers with his sleeve tattoos, tough look, and strong Brooklyn accent. He embodied the spirit of old-school biker culture and brought that attitude to the shop every day. As the lead assembly technician, Rick was responsible for assembling the bikes and ensuring they were built to last. His work gave the shop a sense of real authenticity, showing that OCC wasn't just about flashy designs, but also about solid craftsmanship. Rick's commitment to motorcycle building was matched by his loyalty to the Two-Tool family, making him one of the most respected figures in the crew. When American Chopper came to an end in 2012, Rick's life took a difficult turn. Without the paycheck from the show, he stayed on at Orange County Choppers, but the work no longer provided the same financial security. Bills piled up, and Rick found himself struggling to keep up. By 2017, the pressure reached a breaking point. He was arrested for writing nearly $20,000 in bad checks, a shocking fall for a man who had once been admired as one of the most skilled mechanics on the show. The incident revealed just how much he had been battling behind the scenes, far away from the cameras and fame. The charges against Rick were eventually dropped after he paid restitution, but the impact on his reputation remained. Even though the legal trouble was behind him, the experience left him embarrassed and discouraged. Not long after, he decided to leave Orange County Choppers. His confidence had been shaken, and his trust in the Two-Tool family had changed. Walking away marked the end of his time at OCC and closed a chapter that had once been beautiful. After leaving OCC, Rick tried to build something new by opening a small fabrication shop that focused on custom bikes. At first, it seemed like a good plan, but without the attention that came with being on a popular TV show, it was hard to attract steady customers. The shop struggled to stay busy, and Rick found himself taking on random jobs just to make ends meet. Over time, he had to lean on friends' support to keep the business running, a tough reality for someone who had once been one of the most respected mechanics in the industry. It was a humbling chapter in Rick's life, especially for someone who had once stood at the very top of his craft. The setbacks could have broken him, but Rick was a fighter at heart. He refused to let his mistakes or struggles define him. Instead, he leaned on the same grit and determination that had carried him through the highs of American Chopper. Quietly, he went back to the basics, focusing on the work he loved most. One bike at a time, Rick began rebuilding not just his career, but also his sense of purpose, proving that resilience can shine even in the darkest of times. Rick's resilience showed how determination could rebuild a life piece by piece, even after painful setbacks. But while Rick fought his battles in silence, how would Paul Jr.'s fiery clashes with his father shape the future of American Chopper?
You know, the relationship with my father is one of where we're not fighting. That's what I'll say. I mean, are we hanging out? No, we're not really hanging out.
Paul Two-Tool Jr. In many ways, Paul Jr. was the heart and soul of American Chopper. With his boundless creativity, rebel spirit, and boyish charm, he captured the imagination of gearheads and casual fans alike. His custom bike designs were the stuff of legend, each one a rolling work of art that pushed the boundaries of what was possible on two wheels. But, as any longtime viewer of the show can attest, Paul Jr.'s relationship with his father was always a powder keg waiting to explode. The two clashed constantly over creative differences and business decisions, their screaming matches often devolving into physical altercations. In 2009, tensions finally boiled over, and Sr. fired his son from the company he'd helped build. The fallout was nuclear, with father and son communicating only through lawyers for 2 long years. Paul Jr. channeled his anger and heartbreak into building a new company from scratch, determined to prove that he could make it on his own. But without the financial backing and marketing muscle of Orange County Choppers, Paul Jr. Designs struggled to gain traction. The long legal fights with his father took a heavy toll on Paul Jr. Not only did they strain family relationships, but they also drained his money and left him buried in debt. To keep his business alive, he had no choice but to let workers go and cut back on projects. For someone who had once been celebrated as a top designer and builder, scaling down his dream was a tough reality to face. It showed how quickly success could fade when personal battles spilled over into business. In 2012, after years of fighting and tension, the Tutul family tried to put their differences aside. They reunited for a spin-off series called American Chopper: Senior vs. Junior. The show drew a lot of attention and became popular, as fans were eager to see the two sides working together again. But even with the success, the problems between them never fully went away. Old arguments and hurt feelings remained, and before long, the fragile piece fell apart, revealing that the family's issues ran deeper than the cameras could capture. By 2018, Paul Jr. and his father were estranged once again, communicating only through icy press statements and social media jabs. It was a sad end to a once unbreakable bond. Rachel Tutul. Behind every successful man is a strong woman, and for Paul Jr., that woman was his wife, Rachel. A constant presence on American Chopper, Rachel was the calm in the center of the Tutul storm, a voice of reason and compassion in a world of outsized egos and hot tempers. Fans fell in love with Rachel's gentle spirit and unwavering loyalty to her husband. She was the one person who could talk Paul Jr. down from his wildest ideas and his darkest moods, the steady hand that kept him grounded and focused. But in 2016, Rachel was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, a devastating blow for the young couple. She faced the diagnosis with the same strength and grace that had made her a fan favorite, documenting her journey on social media with honesty and humor. Rachel's cancer went into remission in 2017, but the toll of the illness and the stress of Paul Jr.'s struggling business had put a strain on their marriage that they couldn't overcome. In 2018, the couple announced that they were divorcing after 20 years together. The breakup marked a sad ending to a relationship that had drawn the attention of American Chopper fans for years. Many had followed their story closely, making the split even more difficult to watch. Despite the pain, Rachel carried herself with dignity. She chose not to criticize her former husband or share private details about their marriage. By keeping the matter quiet and respectful, she showed strength and maturity during a time that could have easily turned messy. Today, Rachel has shifted her energy toward caring for her health and helping others. She uses her voice and platform to spread awareness about breast cancer, sharing her story to inspire and encourage survivors who may feel alone in their fight. Through her philanthropy work, she has become a source of strength and hope, showing that even after hardship, it's possible to rebuild and give back. While she may no longer carry the Tutul name, her connection to American Chopper remains strong. Fans still see her as part of the extended family, remembered not just for her past, but for the positive impact she continues to make in the present. Rachel's journey showed how strength could be found in vulnerability, turning personal hardship into hope for others. But while she faced her battles openly, what would happen when the OCC crew learned that their brightest light, Christian Sea Bear Welter, had been fighting a hidden struggle of his own? Christian Welter. Every workplace has that one person who can light up a room with their smile and make even the most stressful day feel a little bit brighter. For the OCC crew, that person was Christian Welter. Known affectionately as Sea Bear, Christian was the heart and soul of the shop floor. His infectious laugh and goofy sense of humor could cut through even the tensest moments, reminding everyone that life was too short to take things too seriously. But behind Christian's perpetual grin was a man fighting a battle that few knew about. In 2019, his family revealed that Christian had been quietly battling stage 4 pancreatic cancer for over 2 years. The announcement stunned both fans and co-workers who had never suspected that Christian was battling an illness. He had never spoken about being sick, never asked for sympathy, and never wanted anyone to treat him differently. Instead, he kept showing up day after day, working with the same energy and determination that had always defined him. His upbeat attitude and strong work ethic made him not only reliable, but also deeply admired by those around him. To the team, Christian wasn't just a co-worker. He was a friend, a source of encouragement, and someone who lifted the spirits of everyone he worked with. Sadly, in early 2020, Christian passed away after his fight with cancer. He was only 52 years old. The loss hit the Orange County Choppers family hard, leaving a space that could never truly be filled. Christian had been more than just a co-worker. He was a friend, a source of positivity, and someone who made the shop a brighter place simply by being himself. His passing reminded everyone of the impact one person can have, and of how their kindness and spirit can continue to live on in the memories of those they touched. After Christian's passing, both his co-workers and fans came together to support his family. They organized GoFundMe campaigns to help his wife and 2 young children, and many bikers honored him with tribute rides. These acts of kindness showed just how deeply Christian had touched the lives of those around him. His generosity, positive spirit, and the way he treated people left behind a legacy that will continue to inspire others long after his death. Christian's passing reminded everyone of the deep bonds and humanity that existed beyond the shop floor. But as the cameras rolled and the 2 tools clashed, who was the steady hand quietly keeping Orange County Choppers alive behind the scenes? Steve Moreau. In the testosterone-fueled world of custom motorcycles, it's easy to overlook the importance of a steady hand at the wheel. But for Orange County Choppers, that hand belonged to Steve Moreau. As the shop's general manager, Steve was the unsung hero of the operation, the man who kept the lights on and the paychecks coming while the 2 tools battled it out on the shop floor. With his dry wit and unflappable demeanor, he was the perfect counterpoint to Paul Sr.'s mercurial leadership style. But when American Chopper ended in 2012, Steve found himself at loose ends. He had poured his heart and soul into building the OCC brand, but without the show's built-in publicity, orders began to dry up, and the company was forced to downsize. In 2016, Paul Sr. made the difficult decision to let Steve go, a move that sent shockwaves through the OCC community. For many fans, Steve had been the glue that held the operation together, the voice of reason in a sea of chaos. By the time Steve reached 61, life had taken a tough turn. The motorcycle industry had shifted, favoring young builders with flashy styles over veterans with years of steady experience. For someone who had once thrived in the fast-paced, high-stakes world of custom bike building, it was a harsh reality. With fewer opportunities to showcase his skills, Steve had to start over. Eventually, he took a job driving a delivery truck, work that was steady but far removed from the excitement and creativity of the shop floor. It was a humbling change, showing how quickly fortunes can shift in an industry built on trends and image. Those closest to Steve often said that no matter what challenges he faced, he never lost his sharp sense of humor or his deep love for building motorcycles. Even though he no longer had his name displayed on a big, well-known shop, his reputation remained strong. The people who had worked alongside him continued to admire his skill, his dedication, and the way he treated others. For them, Steve's legacy wasn't about fame or flashy success. It was about the respect he earned through years of hard work and the friendships he built along the way. Steve's story showed that true respect comes not from fame, but from character and the way you treat people. But what happens when the oldest two-tool brother, Daniel chooses to step away from the spotlight entirely. Daniel Tutul. Of all the Tutul brothers, Daniel was the hardest to figure out. As the oldest sibling, he chose a different path from the rest of the family. While Paul Sr., Paul Jr., and Mikey were often in the spotlight, arguing, building, and entertaining fans, Daniel stayed mostly in the background. He preferred to work quietly behind the scenes, away from the cameras and the chaos of the shop floor. By keeping his distance from the drama, he built a reputation as the reserved member of the clan, someone who valued privacy over fame. In 2017, Daniel's quiet life away from the spotlight suddenly came crashing down. He became the focus of a scandal that shocked the Orange County Choppers community. Investigators revealed that Daniel had been taking money from Orange County Iron Works, the construction business he managed with his father. Instead of using the funds for the company, he had secretly spent them to fuel a serious gambling problem. The discovery not only damaged his reputation, but also shook the trust that his family and co-workers had placed in him, turning the once reserved brother into the center of unwanted attention. The betrayal was a devastating blow to Paul Sr., who had always prided himself on running a tight ship and being a good steward of his family's legacy. He filed charges against his son, a move that sent Daniel to rock bottom and shattered the already fragile bonds of the Tutul clan. In the end, Daniel pleaded guilty to the charges and was sentenced to 5 years of probation and ordered to pay restitution to his father. But the damage had been done, and the once close-knit family found itself fractured beyond repair. For Paul Sr., the betrayal was a bitter pill to swallow. He had always been tough on his sons, pushing them to be their best and holding them to an almost impossible standard. But he had also always believed in the unbreakable bonds of family, the idea that blood was thicker than water, and that the Tutuls would always have each other's backs. To have that belief shattered by his own flesh and blood was a wound that would never fully heal. And as the dust settled on the scandal, it became clear that the man who had always been the rock of the family was starting to crumble under the weight of his own demons. Yet even as his personal struggles mounted, the shadow of his legacy loomed large over the family and the empire he had created. How could the man who had built Orange County Choppers from nothing now find himself fighting to hold it all together? Paul Tutul Sr. In the end, everything leads back to Paul Sr. He was the one who started it all, the hard-edged, no-nonsense patriarch whose personality shaped the very identity of Orange County Choppers. With grit, determination, and sheer willpower, he built the business from the ground up, turning a small shop into a global brand. His larger-than-life presence, both in the shop and on television, made him the face of the empire. Love him or hate him, Paul Sr.'s toughness and drive were the foundation on which American Chopper was built, and his influence continues to loom over the legacy of the show. Even the strongest people can be brought down when life throws enough challenges their way. For Paul Sr., the storm came in the form of financial troubles and personal struggles that hit him one after another. The man who had once seemed unstoppable, building an empire with his own two hands, suddenly found himself facing problems that money, fame, and toughness couldn't easily fix. These setbacks shook him deeply, leaving him reeling and forcing him to confront the reality that even the mightiest figures are not immune to hardship. In 2017, Paul Sr. faced one of the toughest moments of his life when he filed for bankruptcy. Court documents showed that he was more than $1 million in debt and dangerously close to losing the empire he had spent decades building. For fans of American Chopper and the custom motorcycle world, the news was shocking. Paul Sr. had once stood as a symbol of success and strength, a man who seemed untouchable at the height of his fame. Now, his downfall served as a reminder of how quickly fortunes can change, and how even the biggest names in the industry are not immune to financial hardship. Those closest to Paul often said that his downfall didn't come out of nowhere. The warning signs had been there for years. A string of poor business decisions left him financially exposed, while ongoing legal battles drained both his money and his energy. On top of that, personal struggles with alcohol and depression weighed heavily on him, making it harder to keep the empire he had built under control. Bit by bit, the pressures piled up, leaving him vulnerable and setting the stage for the collapse that would eventually follow. The final blow came in 2020 when Paul Sr.'s beloved home, a sprawling 38-acre estate in Montgomery, New York, was set to be auctioned off to the highest bidder. The custom compound, which had been heavily featured on American Chopper, was more than just a house. It was a symbol of everything Paul Sr. had accomplished, and everything he stood to lose. In the end, the auction was canceled at the last minute, with Paul Sr. managing to reach a deal with his creditors to keep the property. But the damage had been done, and the once mighty king of custom choppers found himself humbled and diminished, a shadow of his former self. Which part of Paul Sr.'s journey strikes you the hardest? Was it his battles with alcohol and depression, the near loss of his beloved estate, or the way family conflict chipped away at the bonds he thought were unbreakable? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.